Lacy when he was a young boy, when he used to be with his mother. And then when he went into the service and came back, he came to live with us. He was a friend of my brother's.
I met Grandpa, I think, in 1953. In 1953, I lived on Old Road Street, and his mother lived across the street from me. And he was visiting her one day, and I said, look at that fine man. And he was all dressed up in a business suit and a hat and a shirt and a tie. And my mother said, you leave that man alone. And then he took me to a musical. He says, see, Annie, get your gun. And we went, and it was very, very nice. He said, you liked that, didn't you? Yes, I did. And he said, after the movie, would you like to go for a ride? And he pulled over in the woods, turned the lights out in his car, and he said, what's my name? I said, Lacy. No. What's my first name? It's not Lacy. He said, you got into a car with a person you didn't even know. Don't you ever do that again. You understand? And I didn't realize until later how stupid I was, because he was right. So of course that made me like him more. So he started to come to Cheney, where I was in college, to visit me. And then he asked me in my senior year of college, I want to marry you. And I said, really? I don't want to get married yet. He said, if you marry me, I'll buy you a house. We got married, and we had our reception in our own house.
Okay, I knew Lacy before, not really well, until he moved into Mrs. Sumner's house. He roomed there. I met my husband while he was living there, and always a good guy, always trying to help someone.
My mother is Evelyn Daisy Lacy, the daughter of Howard Lacy.
Well, when I was younger, they were pretty close. You know, they would come see us in Trenton, and he lived in Ewing. That's all. That's basically what I remember. Just seeing them together.
Well, my mother is Dolores Smith, what they call her honey.
They had a very intimate relationship. It was always like big brother looking out for little sister. My Uncle Bunchie cared deeply and loved deeply my mother. Was very concerned about her struggles of her having to raise the children when he was away in service, and took a personal interest in the upbringing of myself and my siblings.
My mother was, I would say, the middle child, and Uncle Bunchie was the oldest child. And Uncle Bunchie always was very, very concerned about Mommy, because Mommy was the one who was like the matriarch of the family.
And he was very fond of my mother, because she knew my mother was raising 10 children, basically by herself.
I always admired him, and he would always monitor my life, whether I was doing good or bad. I had some negative things happen, and that was not what he wanted for me. So he would always try to give me the proper advice, how to conduct myself as a gentleman.
He used to do things. They'd come and pick us up and when we were children, and took us to ride bikes. They had thousands of bikes in there. Uncle Bunchie and Aunt Betty had bikes in the garage, and he used to take us to Halo Farm. I'll never forget that. And we used to watch the juices being made, and they had cows out, so he took us to see the animals, and I remember that about my uncle.
The relationship was beautiful, because when we was kids, my mom used to call Uncle Bunchie, and he used to come pick us up, bring us out yawing, take us to the swimming pools, take us swimming. After we go swimming, he'll take us out for ice cream and stuff. He was like our favorite uncle.
Living in South Trenton, and he was living in the township, I think what I remember that he wanted us to see something better. Something better.
He was the oldest child, And by them growing up in poverty in a single family household, he was like not only the big brother, but some type of father figure in their family.
My mom said, y'all going with y'all uncle? Everybody got ready. I mean, when he came, we knew we was going to have some fun.
I know that he was a musician. I know that he was a hard worker.
He started his first really big job when he came out of the military. And so he must have been about 20 years old when he came out of the military. And he worked for a place called Belmead, and that was an Army service center. He was very responsible, and I know he was the type who believed, even though I didn't hear him say this, but if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, you're unacceptable. And one day, one of the supervisors came out and said, can anybody here type? The person who's is our typist is going to be out for a few months, and I need a typist. So he says, I can type. So he took him in and he gave him the typing test. He said, wow, you're really good. And he never went back to hard work again. Applied at the post office. And of course he had to start as a carrier. Not a carrier, a sorter. He sorted mail. And when a job came up in the office, he applied for it and got it.
But he used to work at the U.S. Post Office, and I was probably around 9 years old, or 8, 9 years old. Asked people, where's Mr. Lacy at? And to see a African-American male back during that time sitting in a office, a big building behind a desk, that always stuck to me when I was young. And that stuck with me ever since I was small. And it was a great feeling to know that, and it inspired me to try to lead a life of success for me and my family.
He always asked me, is you working? He said, you work, it's the only time you're going to be able to do something for yourself and help your mother. He said, you gotta work. To be a man, you gotta get up and you gotta work. He always come by and say, you working? Yeah, Bunchie. I always had to have something for him. And half of the times me and Teddy was working together.
And he rose up through the ranks, and he became a personnel assistant, which was an administrative job. And he was also the editor of the Postal Pen newspaper. And he received national honors for his wonderful writing, his stories, his announcements, and just really, really great.
My father was very committed and responsible. He was a very responsible man. And one thing I know that he did was, one thing that he told me was that he loved music, but music was not going to provide benefits for his family.
And Uncle Bunchie, he used to see me and Teddy working together. He'd be happy. Because he was proud. He was proud of Teddy. He would always get good jobs.
So proud of you, Susan. I mean, that's the salary is something that I never even came close to reaching in my lifetime. I'm very proud of you. And I want to thank you, Susan, for the card and the check for Father's Day. I really appreciate it, and I love you very much. Thank you so much, Sue. Love you.
And I remember as a child waiting in the window till he drove up in the driveway so we could have dinner together. So I just knew Daddy was coming home from work. You know, work was part of the day, part of the routine. And if it wasn't a weekday, I knew he may go out at night to work because he was playing his trumpet.
My father was always playing the horn, and you could always hear the horn coming from the basement, and I just thought that was normal. And kids would come over, my friends would come over and say, "Is that your dad playing the trumpet?" And they thought it was different. But to me, that was normal. My father played the trumpet, and I was very proud of him.
I used to live with my grandparents and my mother and my brothers. And my grandfather would play the trumpet all the time in the basement. So you would hear his trumpet being played all throughout the day. And I just knew from hearing him play all the time how much he loved and appreciated the trumpet and music. And I used to always see him writing his own music in his room.
He loved music.
Yeah.
He wanted to play music all the time.
Jazz was a release for black men, especially in that era, 60s and 70s, because they really didn't have any other outlet. And there was no other place for them to be besides with each other.
We shared music together. We both like jazz. I mean, he showed me things that I didn't even know, and I thought I was a jazz fanatic. He showed me things that touched me. And that's the most memorable things that we shared. Every time we got together, we couldn't help but speak of jazz. Coltrane, Miles, and Zoop Sims, and we just went back. We just went back to jazz. That was our brought us together, bonded us, so to say.
Well, growing up with my father, I always had a good time. I always felt loved by my mother and father, and I felt cared for, and I felt like we were rich because my parents provided everything for us.
What was it like growing up with my father? Peaceful, calm. I always felt comfortable. And when I look back at pictures, I see that I was always smiling and happy and being snuggled by my mom or my dad or my sister or brother. So I think as a child, I had no care in the world because life was great. I felt protected and safe and secure and happy all the time. So knowing that I had my mother and my father to provide that environment was a great opportunity.
As the oldest, I felt responsible. I kind of felt like I had to be a role model. And one thing I realized is that I was the oldest child of oldest children. So my mother's the oldest and my father's the oldest. So I kind of felt like they knew my position and they understood my position being the oldest. And so I just felt like I had to be a role model. I couldn't be that bad. I had to be a good girl.
Uncle Bunchie always provided like inspirational talks to us. Specifically, he always had some good words of wisdom to provide, something that can put in your heart, keep you going, no matter what the situation. You can think back to something he might have told you at some point in time.
Well, Uncle Bunchie tried to help Mommy out a lot, but Mommy had a lot of children. Mommy had 10 kids. So with him trying to raise his own children, it was difficult for him to try to do a lot for Mommy. But when he could, he would come by and drop off clothes to give to us when we were kids. And he would pick us up and take us over to the house, take us for a ride, just to get us out of the neighborhood.
Well, he would come to Philadelphia and check on us often. He was concerned about us having, the proper education, concerned about us having the proper provisions. Sometimes he would come over and bring toys because my mother was not a believer in Christmas, but he would come over. He brought me this big castle one time when we were in Philly, and he would take me with him, and we ate ice cream on a street called Lancaster Avenue. And Uncle Bunchie was pretty much a leader in our family.
We would stay close-knit because that's the way we were raised. So that's how my father's relationship was with Bunch. And that's basically how my relationship is with Teddy. But Bunch and I were very close. We could talk. Our conversations were extensive because Bunch would always just come right to the point with what he had to say. He wasn't a man of a lot of words. But when he said something, it was because he wanted you to get the import of it. And when he shared that with you, he expected you to reciprocate that information in action.
He had a lot of influence on my character. Some things I wouldn't do because I didn't want to let him down. And those certain things helped make me become a better person and helped me not be pressured into a lot of the things that my peers were getting into.
Every time we spoke to him, He gave us knowledge. He would ask us questions about school, life, what were we doing in life, what were our plans for the future, and he would give us motivation.
It was fun to grow up with you. I mean, I like to, you know, listen to you play and listen to all the stuff that you have to talk about like trumpets and your history with playing the trumpet.
Well, my relationship was always personal with Bunchie. Like I said, I had made a lot of bad decisions in my life, but he was the individual that encouraged me as well as motivated me to move in the right direction. And then when I made those positive strides, he continued to reinforce productivity. So that's what he did for me on a personal level.
Wanda had her first grandchild, and that was Ron. And she called us and said that the baby was born, and we jumped in our car and went up there so fast, and we didn't know where we were going. And there was no GPS or all that in those days.
My father was so excited about being a grandfather. When I gave birth to Ron, I was in North Jersey, in West Orange, Livingston, New Jersey, St. Barnabas Hospital.
And we were speeding so fast on the highway, the police pulled us over. And they said, I can't stay here and talk to you. Sir, we just had our first grandchild, and my child, they're in whatever the hospital was. And the man says, well, I hope you get there safely to see your child the way you were driving. And he said, congratulations, now I'm going to lead you to the hospital. And we followed the police car because he was excited, because we were so excited about this new baby.
And he loved his grandchildren so much. And I understand that feeling now that I'm a grandmother.
He was happy about being a great-grandfather. He was happy with all kids. He was happy with his grandchildren, his children, and neighbors' children. So he was extremely happy when he met the brand new baby, Layla.
Layla Elizabeth Marie McNeil.
Who's your dad?
Alex McNeil. I love you, Grandpa.
And she was very close to him. Alex would bring him over to see Lacy. So he was real happy.
He helped me become a lady. He helped me appreciate my own personality.
He really stepped in for them when their father died. He was very good, and he thought it was his responsibility to do what he could as a substitute father figure.
I remember him telling me that I can't replace your father, but I'll be here like a father to you whenever you need me. Don't be afraid to ask me for anything.
He really enjoyed his role, and he really enjoyed his grandchildren, and he showed them. And I'm eternally grateful, and I just hope that I am half the grandparent to my grandchildren that my father was to my children.
Oh, Carter was born when Lacy was in the hospital, and Ron brought him up, and he was so cute, and he looked just like Wanda's baby pictures. In fact, when he was born and they sent pictures to us, Wanda said, Mommy, I got my baby picture out, and he looks just like me. And she got in her car and ran down to Delaware to see her grandchild.
When I found out that he was in the hospital and that he had cancer, and I went to go see him, you know, it was like, well, wait a minute, you know, he gonna beat this thing. He, you know, his spirit, his energy, his emotions, and he was in great tact.
He was very upset and very depressed, and one of the reasons was that the cancer was in his parotid gland in his neck, and so it affected his blowing his horn, so he could not blow his horn. It wasn't easy. I couldn't believe it. I thought that, oh, we'll take good care of you and you're going to be fine.
Finding out that he had cancer and that our relationship would be short-lived was like devastating.
I was in denial for a long time, for a very long time.
and his horn was his life. He loved it. So I said, you know, you don't have to blow all the time. Just listen to your music. And I would put records on that he liked, Louis Armstrong, Harry James, and all these different people who played the trumpet like he did. And so that was some help. But it was very, very hard.
Didn't like it, actually. I was concerned about it. I wanted some affirmative action to be done. I wanted to live like anything else, you know. I know he had some situations before with this thing, and I just wanted him to live. And I told him to his face, Uncle, if I could change it, I would, but I couldn't. So, amen.
When he had the surgery, they discovered that it was cancer. They put him in counseling because he had a hard time dealing with it. And I don't want to go to counseling. He was really upset about having to go. So we finally talked him into going. And it was with a group of men who had also had cancer. And he came home, he said, Betty, he said, those guys are worse off than I am. And so he built up a relationship with them. And one day, this very old man said to him, I heard you play the trumpet. He said, I used to. He said, can you play a song named Danny Boy? He said, oh, sure, I know Danny Boy. And just that question motivated him to come home and try to practice a little bit. And a little bit every day, he got stronger and stronger until he was able to take that trumpet back to counseling and play that song for the man.
And that's what I admired about my father and what I admired about Bunch, is that they reached beyond the expectations of what a black man can achieve. And I admired him and loved him all my life. And I'm sorry that he's gone now, and I miss him desperately.
Would you say you make him proud now? Would you say anything that you've done in your life made him proud?
Yes, because I last spoke with him, and we talked. He asked me what was I doing, and I told him I was about to finish up at Phoenix University, and I was working, and I seen him smiling, and he nodded his head, yeah, okay, you know, he gave me that nod, and I knew I was good with it.
For him being the patriarch, not only of his family, but it trickled down to all his nieces and nephews, and his leadership and his example of being a father, of overcoming obstacles, of all the issues that he had coming up with the family. And as he used to tell me these stories, and I have to say to him, Uncle Bunchie, listening to this, it's a blessing. It's a blessing that you went through this, because had you not sacrificed for your family, where would we be? Where would my mother be? Where would Aunt June, Aunt Evelyn? Where would Uncle Sonny be? Uncle Jojo had been in raising their family if you didn't sacrifice and do what you did as a big brother and almost as a father figure, and how it affected us. So I would say that your spirit, you might be physically gone from amongst us, but spiritually you live, because I'm going to still strive every day of my life to do the things that I know that you will want me to do as a man. And I think my brothers and sisters and cousins will do the same thing.
I have a great wife and family, and pretty much have achieved those goals because I watched him. So to tell him would be thank you for being my role model, thank you for being my uncle, and I love you dearly, and I wish you were still here.
Because he helped somebody else do things that he liked, and he really enjoyed it.
I wish I spent more time with you, and I love you very much. And yeah, and I would really want to hear you a lot more play the trumpet. Love you, Grandpa.
Well, I was shocked at first that he got cancer for the third time, and I was hurt because I didn't want him to have to go through it again. And then when I found out that there was possibly nothing that they would be able to do to cure it, I was distraught. But I'm glad that he no longer has to suffer. And I'm happy he's in a better place now.
Enjoy the ride, Uncle Bunch.
Thank you for playing with me. I like when you do that to me. Please do it when you come back.
Hey Grandpa, that was Brendan, and here's little Carter, and of course me. Brittany's behind the camera.
Hi Grandpa.
Well, I just wanted to tell you I love you and I appreciate everything you've done for me while I was growing up, from taking us to ground round to giving us a pop every time we needed one. It all worked up and hopefully it turned out to be a great young man, father, husband, and everything. Brittany's nodding her head and saying yes. So, I just want to, I look back on the times where how we used to make fun of how you used to use your little curse words like dog bite the luck, Jiminy Crickets, sugar, and how we made the little song about it, and how you would always drive through Trenton and then stop on the corners and then point to where people were at, and like, that's where I used to shine shoes. I was like, Grandpa, you can't be pointing to people like that in your cop car. But it was all fun, and we're all gonna miss that. Just want you to know again that we do love you, and you're really an inspiration to all of us, and I hope that we can be as good of a man as you are, and plan on living you, well, making sure your legacy lives on through all of us. So from my family in our new apartment, don't want to show you everything because it's not the cleanest right now because we're just getting ready, just moving in. Just want to tell you we love you and see you soon. Bye.
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 Hey, this is your nephew, Jamal, and your granddaughter asked us to make these videos to let you know how we feel about you and some of the things we remember. Let me start off by saying thank you for everything. Had it not been for you, I wouldn't be where I am today at all. And every time I see you, I tell you that. It's hard making this video, man. I love you, first of all. I love you. And I wish you nothing but the best. You've been such an influence for me. Prior to my conception even. My mom wasn't able to be here and asked me to make the video. But as I look back and I think back on all the wonderful things she had to say about you, she says she loves you. You and Auntie took a very significant role in help raising my mom, Yvette. And had it not been for that, I may not be here today. I look at all the pictures of you guys and y'all raising her and bringing her up and helping her become a better person and be the woman she is today. So I thank you for that. She thanks you for that and loves you for that. But me in particular, you've been so influential in my life, man. Had it not been for you and Auntie, I wouldn't have been able to go to school, to college. It's been many times that I called you in college and I needed some money, I needed some help. And you never hesitate to help me. So thank you for that. Had it not been for that, I would have dropped out a long time ago and I wouldn't have been able to accomplish the things I've accomplished professionally and personally. I have a PhD because of you. And I thank you and I love you. And I wish you all the best health in the world, all the love in the world. I'm never going to forget you. And I hope you feel better soon, man. I love you. Peace.
I love my grandpa. When I was 5, my music teacher told me I was musically gifted, and I got my musical gifts from him, and still I can play by ear on the piano. So thank you.
Hi, Uncle Bunch. It's Gay. Hope. And Jill. And we want to thank you so much for pouring your love and time into this guy here, who in turn poured his love into us. We want to thank you so much, and we love you.
Hey, Grandpa. Just a few memories that I have with you. Going fishing as kids at the lake, the Delaware River too. going to the ground round. I know everyone will mention that. It was always a good time with you. The hundreds of times that we went. Burger King, we went a lot. Those were great times too. I also remember you picking me up from school, you taking me and Ron to soccer practice or soccer games together. The one time we got pulled over, I don't know if anyone remembers that. I remember that time on Parkway Avenue. Yeah, on Parkway. Going to, I think, soccer practice or something for turning right on red. I remember that. That was a while back. I remember you listening to you play the trumpet on Claflin Avenue. Playing pool in the basement, learning to play pool from you, and you were always a good pool player. Trying the trumpet, it never worked out, but I remember trying that sometimes. And just a bunch of other stuff that will always mean so much to me, and I'll always love you so much for being so impactful and influential in my life. And I thank you for that. I'm happy that you got to meet Layla. She's 3. She's freaking huge. And I'm happy she got to meet you. And she loves you a lot. I know you love her. And I'm just grateful to have you in my life. I pray for you every day. And I know you'll get better. I know you'll be better. And I'm just happy to have you around this long, and I'm lucky to have you. So just doing this video to say I love you and I appreciate you, and I'll keep you in my prayers. See you soon.
Say it again.
PFP, hold it down.
Hi, Tara. I'm sorry I missed your call. Congratulations. You did a very good job. You really worked hard, and we all are very proud. Hi, Tara. This is Grandpa. Just calling to see how you're doing. So you have a nice day. Bye-bye.